All state agencies are making preparations for the storm. That will be a very big task for the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, which runs and supervises homes for the disabled all around the state. Joining me to talk about the agency's plans as well as its ongoing reform efforts is OPWDD Commissioner Courtney Burke. Commissioner, thank you so much for being here. It's really good to see you. This undertaking is enormous, the preparation for Hurricane Irene. You guys are just one agency in a whole sort of pantheon of agencies that are preparing. What is it that you guys are doing?
We're taking a number of actions, but I have to say, first of all, that this has been a very coordinated effort on the part of the governor and the entire cabinet. We've actually been preparing for several days now between the Office of Emergency Management, the governor's office, with regular conference calls between the agencies, looking at everything from making sure transportation routes, evacuation routes are safe, working with the Department of Health to make sure we have ambulances ready if they are needed. And then within our own agency, we've been coordinating our efforts for the past several days, looking at where our homes are located. If you look at where the storm surges are expected to happen, we have about 75 homes, and those homes have several individuals in them that are in Zone 1. And that's the zone that's expected to take the brunt of the storm. So we've been in contact with our homes, as well as voluntary not-for-profit providers that provide services within our system but aren't necessarily state-operated, to make sure that their evacuation plans are in place and ready to be executed.
So when will we know exactly if those folks have to be moved?
Well, we have heard suggestions of a voluntary evacuation. For the homes in Zone 1, we've already begun some of the evacuation because we think with vulnerable populations, given that public transportation, the MTA, the Long Island Railroad, may be shut down sometime midday Saturday, that we need to have our populations out first.
And how does that work? Do you encourage family members to come and say, if you are able to take this individual home for a couple of days, please do that?
We have actually alternative sites in place already so that families don't need to be involved, but they certainly can be involved.
Mm-hmm. Is there are extra precautions, obviously, that everybody has to take, but you're talking about a population that can't take care of itself without assistance, obviously. So there are additional concerns that one might not think of, sort of for like your average family. What might those be?
Well, we're making sure that we have all of the necessary backup. Should facilities lose power, should there be flooding, making sure that people have charged cell phones, making sure that they have enough water, making sure they know who they are supposed to get in touch with if there is an emergency. So taking all of those necessary precautions.
And it includes everything that everybody else would have to worry about, medication, for example, and your emergency belongings, your paperwork that might be necessary to you. These are things that the state or whoever's in charge needs to make sure that the residents have already done or have with them when they relocate.
Exactly, and we've of course been in touch with all of our staff and our nonprofit providers about making sure that they have all those things, going through that list of sort of everything that you can think of so that we're fully prepared. And of course coordinating all of this with the governor's office. This is one of those times where, as the governor came in, he said that we are one government, and this is one of those times where we really need to operate as one. And so,
is there like a mental health capacity or component to this, particularly for people who might not understand what's going on necessarily?
Right. Well, yes, we have people through a whole range of different types of developmental disabilities.
Right.
Everybody from potential physical disability to somebody who maybe have physical capabilities but some type of mental disability. So working with them, it's quite a varied population, and that's part of the plans to make sure that we're prepared. That some people it's very disruptive to move them from their homes, so making sure that they understand what's happening, making sure we have enough staff on hand to be assisting.
The staff is actually the biggest challenge for this agency, it seemed like to me. I mean, this is an agency that is undergoing an overhaul under your leadership, under the governor's leadership. You are about to make an announcement on Monday. You've been taking a number of steps to change protocol and dealing with staff, but there is about to be an announcement on Monday. You're hiring a new chief investigator.
That's correct. Very highly qualified investigator. And the agency has taken a number of reforms to shore up safety within our system, to make sure that people that we're serving are safe as can be. So that really is a range of things, everything from looking at who you're hiring and making sure that they are qualified. So we raised hiring standards when I first came in as of April 1st, requiring people have a high school diploma, requiring that they go through drug testing and psychological testing. But then once people are in, making sure that they're properly supported. So we've been rolling out a number of different trainings, one on abuse prevention, one on promoting positive relationships, not just between the employees and the people we're serving, but between other employees. And then centrally and administratively, we've done a number of things to shore up what we're doing. We've hired, as you mentioned, a new director, a lead investigator with an investigatory background.
Actually, some people are going to know him, right?
I would think so.
Are we allowed to reveal who it is at this point?
Well, there's a rumor in the Times Union about it.
It's Anthony Bruno. He worked for some time for the Albany PD, and I think a lot of people know who that is. And he comes very highly recommended, obviously, a guy who's been around for a long time.
Yes, and we are thrilled to be bringing on somebody so highly qualified. We've also, with our investigations, we've centralized how we're doing our investigations. Previously, it was set up so that our investigators were oftentimes investigating people they worked with. As you can imagine, that would create an inherent conflict of interest. So we have centralized investigations, and we've also required them to be certified. So we have 51 newly certified investigators.
Some of this is difficult because you're talking about a population that is difficult to work with, and at some point that sometime require physical restraint. Is that correct? I mean, and things that some people, the line where I might come in not being trained and say that looks like abuse to me is actually not abuse, correct?
It's very hard to say, but we have very strict rules about putting hands on people, and we're actually looking to try and change even the methods that we're using now to be even more hands-off. We've been in contact with several different agencies that use less restrictive interventions, seeing if that's something that we can apply within our own system, as well as an overall culture change, so that it's really a much more supportive culture where you're asking the individuals we serve every day about what's an important day for them, what things make them happy, as opposed to just providing services that we think they need. So really looking more at how do we make it more person-centered.
You know, some of this is also, and putting people first is obviously your slogan, right? But some of this is also seems to an outsider like kind of a no-brainer. The changes that you have instituted, for example, if a person has a documented case of abuse against one of the residents, that person is obviously you have to go through arbitration in terms of terminating them, but they're suspended without pay. That's actually new, correct?
Correct. Previously, in prior administrations, there was not a clear policy about when an employee should be suspended. And I think when there is a situation that is either physical or sexual abuse or something else that's egregious, we should not be paying to put somebody on administrative leave. We should be suspending them without pay. And so that's what we have begun to do. In order to do that, we had to centralize our disciplinary process and have a disciplinary review panel to make sure that we're being consistent and firm in the way we're carrying out our disciplinary.
But some of this requires negotiation with the union. It's CSEA. And that is actually an ongoing process as well.
Right. Well, what we did was just policy. And really to make it effective over the long term, what we did this year in the contract negotiations with CSEA was to ask for a table of penalties in the arbitration process. And what that table would do would make it clearer that when there is a certain infraction by an employee that is egregious enough that there should be a certain set of consequences. And we think that it should be progressive. So certain situations, you ask the common person, should this person keep their job after they've done this? And people would say no. So we would think that certain things would just automatically result in termination. But other things, maybe time and attendance, may not be as bad, but should they happen consistently and again, we think that there should be progressive punishment for the different infractions.
Do you think going forward, and I know that the state has just come through a difficult financial time, but going forward, part of improving the people who are coming to work for you and having different hiring standards will require raising the salaries? Because some of those salaries are not very high.
You're right that the salaries are not high. I mean, these people do incredible work every day, and it's true the vast majority of people in our system are really great people who give of themselves. But raising pay at this point in time is difficult given the state budget situation. So what we're trying to do is promote more positive environments for them so that they're feeling better about the work that they're doing. A lot of people don't necessarily leave jobs because of pay. They usually leave because they're unhappy with the work environment.
True.
So creating a positive work environment is what we can do right now when we have limited resources.
And just, we're about to run out of time, but you're also encouraging people, if they see something, say something, to sort of borrow a phrase from the NYPD. There's an ongoing case that I understand that you can't discuss, but it's seeking, the administration is pursuing a case against a whistleblower. Are you concerned that that's going to have a chilling effect on other people who might be encouraged or want to report abuse by their coworkers and think there's no point in doing so?
We've been very consistent and very, I would say, loud in our message in making sure that employees know about their obligation to report abuse. And we've started a communications campaign where we're sending notices to all the different homes that we operate about what numbers they can call to report abuse, as well as we rolled out and required all of our direct care workers to take an abuse prevention training so they know how to recognize abuse, and how to report abuse, and know about their obligation to do so.
And not doing so could also be considered a crime. Is that correct?
Right.
Under new protocols. Okay. This is ongoing, and hopefully as it continues to be rolling out, you will come back and discuss it with us, because I know that there are a lot of people. It's getting a lot of attention, of course, from the New York Times, but I know that there are a lot of people who have loved ones who are living in this situation and who are just concerned about the state's protection of people who require that.
Right, and certainly we've been doing everything within our power to make sure that individuals are safe within our system, making sure that people are, in fact, putting the people we serve first.
Commissioner Burke, thanks very much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.